talk about baseload. This is CPS says we need baseload, and there are three options. There's coal, there's nuclear, and there's essentially combined cycle gas. That would be your three baseload options. The Atomic Safety Licensing Board of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, don't believe me, I'm a fan of Ronald Reagan to this effect, trust but verify. He said that about nuclear weapons, also true about energy. The Atomic Safety Licensing Board in a TVA licensing decision recently said that in an EIS, the TVA must consider baseload wind, which is natural gas-assisted wind, 5% of the emissions compared to coal. Compressed air storage. Compressed air storage is in operation for many years on a commercial scale in Alabama and Germany. This is not a pie-in-the-sky technology. Quite the contrary. It is a here underground technology. So it's exactly the opposite of what Mr. Moore told you. The costs of compressed air storage for Texas were evaluated in a Texas-specific study that was commissioned. And to my estimation, interpreting that study, they're about 3 cents a kilowatt hour. This morning when we met with the board of the San Antonio, editorial board of the San Antonio Express, I understood that CPS Energy has never actually written an RFP for compressed energy storage to convert their proposed and existing wind investment into firm power. You're on the road to spend $500 million on paperwork to preserve an option on nuclear for 1,080 megawatts. For $500 million, the 1,200 megawatts projected for wind over the next 20 years could be converted into firm supply. You don't need it today. In my understanding of CPS numbers, and my undergraduate is in electrical engineering, I have consulted with utilities, I consulted with LCRA, I've consulted with the TVA, I've done work for the Edison Electric Institute. So I don't come at this from an ideological point of view. You've got to keep the lights on and the bills reasonable. This is very, very important. But at this stage, should you be thinking about baseload in a conventional way, given the financial uncertainties and the electrical uncertainties? We've been through this before. TVA was a large, well-run public utility with low rates in 1973 that overbuilt nuclear and wound up in deep financial trouble and is still $20 billion in debt, mostly from having built unneeded nuclear power plants with electricity that it could not sell and had to cancel a number of its projects. $500 million is CPS Energy's share, $400 million, something like that. You'll correct the exact figure. From start to 2012, in terms of the paperwork, as I heard Steve this morning, a good bit of that has already been spent. In my estimation, CPS Energy has not properly evaluated the solar thermal with storage option. Their costs are more than 2 times as high as the contractual published costs of utilities who are today buying that technology. To the best that I can understand, the CPS cost estimate of solar thermal with storage are based on the first plant of this kind that was ever built in Spain. That's the best that I can tell. You'll correct me if your cost is derived from some other source, but when you look at Arizona Public Service or Pacific Gas and Electric and look at their published costs of what they're contracting for this energy source. All right. What do you need to do to make a good decision? I think you need a lot more information than you have. You don't have good information on solar thermal storage. You don't have good information on compressed air energy storage. These options have admittedly not even been evaluated to the extent of public literature that I have seen. The June 29, 2009, which lays out all of the options that have been evaluated and the scenarios and so on, these options have not been evaluated. Only the convention. The chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has more than twice said this year that the conventional notion of base load is obsolete. We're thinking in the age of IBM punch cards and mainframes when we live in the age of internet and laptops. You can connect wind turbines to an ice-making machine and make ice when the wind is blowing and use the ice for air conditioning. You don't need the electricity for air conditioning when you need air conditioning. You need cool air. You need energy services. You can use a frozen meat warehouse to store wind energy in cold and then turn off the frozen meat machine at the peak hour. This has already been done. Now, some of this is more experimental, some of this is demonstrated, some of this is commercial, but you are in a position where you have the option to do it right. Two things that you need to do most importantly. I think this community deserves and needs an independent evaluation of the options before you, and you do not have that. Combined heat and power, not part. Biogas, even in the base load mode, forget about the IBM punch cards. Biomass with integrated gasification combined cycle, not on the table. I've already talked about wind in the base load. Look at the National Renewable Energy Lab. The other thing you need is you need to convert efficiency and distributed resources, that is the local power generation, your solar photovoltaics that are local, and all of the other forms of local generation, into a business model that will work for CPS and that will work for the city to preserve and enhance the city's share, to keep that 14% flowing to the city so your taxes don't go up. In my opinion, the way to do that is potentially to set up a subsidiary of CPS Energy that would do efficiency and renewables. Give you a loan if you want to improve your house, do a thorough sharp pencil audit, your electricity and gas bill will go down, you will be paying off your loan through your energy bill, and that loan will be transferable with the house and not with the person that currently owns it or the landlord. I think we desperately need not new technology so much, but a business model that will actually work. What will this do for you in a time when the economy is very uncertain, is not even certain that electricity consumption and energy consumption will grow when economic growth resumes because of all the carbon constraints, the efficiency standards, the appliance standards? It's not in your control. Your city will grow, but will your electricity grow? We don't know that. The best thing for you to do is to spend those hundreds of millions of dollars to put CPS Energy in a situation where they will be able to maintain their opportunistic history. Today, with a nuclear investment, they cannot maintain that. If you wind up in 2015 and have a flat electricity demand and don't know where to put the nuclear, or the cost of nuclear goes up, or your bond rating goes down because you're too deeply into it, you're stuck. Bottom line is, I really think you need to commission an independent report on the options before you, and I don't think today, Mayor, that you have the information to be able to make the decision on its merits. That's my assertion. Thank you.